Oak Bay Gordon Head.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Yesterday we left off with a question that the Minister had suggested she would be able to provide the answer for. The question I had asked as to what other provinces in our country have boards that comprise more order and council appointments than those elected by or participating in the institutions. I'm hoping she has the answer this morning to share with us.
Minister of Advanced Education.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the question to the member for the question. There are a few examples in other provinces where, like British Columbia, LGIC appointees has a majority over non-appointed members, but across the country, the number of government appointees to university boards generally do not exceed the number of non-appointed members. For example, the University of Manitoba has 12 appointed members, 3 of which must be students, and 11 non-appointed members. At the Memorial University in Newfoundland, they have a majority of 21 appointed members, 4 of whom are students and 9 are non-appointed members.
Oak Bay Gordon Head.
Thank you, and I appreciate the very few examples that exist, and it's interesting to note in those examples that exist, the appointed members are indeed also comprising students. So this is, British Columbia is rather unique in the number, and as the Minister pointed out yesterday, in the Colleges and Act, the boards are made up of 1 elected faculty member, 2 elected students, 1 staff elected, 1 president, 1 chair of the Education Council, and 8 appointments through order in council, at least 8. My question to the Minister is, does she believe that students are in a conflict of interest if they are on a board, in light of the fact that it is the board that determines tuition fee increases? Yes or no?
Minister for Advanced Education.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the response is no, but there are bylaws in place and measures in place to address any conflicts of interest. Again, through the board, there are some institutions where students are allowed to participate in the room. There are other institutions where they're not, but the test of conflict of interest is always being measured. And again, the law, the act that states to act in the best interests of the institutions.
Oak Bay Gordon Head.
Thank you. Every college in the province, every university in the province has students on its boards. Those students are elected, and those students are governed by conflict of interest proceedings and regulations as outlined by the Minister. So I very much appreciate that answer. In the same vein, every of the staff and faculty that are on all boards, everyone, as is noted by the Minister, is elected. The question I then have is, to what extent, how are order in council appointments made? Who actually makes those appointments?
Minister of Advanced Education.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Orders in council are approved by Cabinet at the recommendation of the Minister. And as the member knows, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of appointments that are made across all ministries throughout government.
Member for Oak Bay, Gordon Head.
Thank you. On these boards, some of the institutions, and we've had some leeway in these discussions because sections 1 to 3 are virtually identical in scope. They just apply to 3 different things: College and Institute Act, Railroads Act, and University Act, and the official opposition. And I have been a little loose across the references, but it's all bearing on the same theme. My question is, how is a chancellor appointed at a university, and how does a board appoint a chancellor?
Minister for Advanced Education.
Thank you for the question. Under the University Act, Chancellor defined under Section 11, Part 5, there must be a Chancellor of each university who is to be appointed by the board on nomination by the Alumni Association and after consultation with the Senate, or, in the case of the University of British Columbia, after consultation with the Council.
Member for Oak Bay, Gordon Head.
Thank you. The Chancellor is the public face and the representative of an institution. The Chancellor, as noted by the Minister, is elected by the board. The government appoints the majority in British Columbia on all boards of colleges, railroads, and universities. Does the Minister believe that there's a potential conflict of governance if it is the government that ultimately, through its appointments, that in dominance in all of the boards, actually determines the voice of an institution? This is unique in British Columbia, unlike any other province in our nation, that the government appointees make up dominance of the boards, who then select a chancellor, who is the public institution. And this is why we've had scandal after scandal in British Columbia, most recently at the University of British Columbia, and also the University of Northern British Columbia, UNBC, with respect to appointments. So my question to the Minister is this: is she concerned that the conflict of interest that actually arises in the appointment of the boards in British Columbia is not through the elected people who are on the board, but rather by the potential for government to influence the academic governance of a board by stacking the boards with their party elite? Does this concern the Minister at all? And the subsequent question is this an issue that she believes could lead to conflict of interest with government?
Minister for Advanced Education.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I do agree with the member that elected members are not in a conflict. However, the broader discussion of an appointment of a chancellor is, with all due respect, out of the scope of the discussion today with the amendments that we have on the floor. I am happy to discuss the bigger picture of the amendments that I am aware that the member opposite has raised need to be changed. Because I've heard from other stakeholders what areas might need to be changed under the University Act or under the College and Institutes Act. But with respect to what is on the floor today, we are proposing amendments to Section 59 and Section 59, Part 8, about the eligibility of appointed members to the board that are elected officials, elected faculty or staff.
Member for Oak Bay, Gordon Head.
Thank you, and I'm fine with that answer. Actually, I'll come back to that I have two more questions. The first question is the proposals here. My question to the minister is this: to what extent do these proposals conflict or agree with similar legislation that exists in every other province across this nation?
Minister for Advanced Education.
Thank you, Chair. The only other province that has similar legislation is currently Alberta. Through these amendments, the only province that will have those changes, those rules in effect will be Alberta. So we will be bringing ourselves in line with every other province in Canada.
Member for Oak Bay, Gordon Head.
Thank you. That concludes my line of questioning, and I very much appreciate the response from the minister and her staff. To summarize, what has happened here, Honourable Chair, is that we've realized and had a full discussion of the makeup of these boards, how there are certain elected members, which is comparative to other provinces. In fact, where we differ is we have so many ordering council appointments here that whereas they have the majority on each and every board. I appreciate that the minister pointed out that this is not the subject of today, but what I've tried to point out through this line of questions is that the amendments that are put forward here are not actually controversial. They're in place already across the nation in virtually every other province except Alberta. But Alberta is also quite different from BC because in Alberta, they do not have ordering council appointments dominating the boards. So BC really is an outlier in this, where we have, if I would suggest, and I'd like to discuss this further with the minister, and I look forward to those discussions, that if there is any conflict of interest in the boards, it's not with the elected students, it's not with the elected faculty, it's not with the elected staff, it's actually with the ordering council appointments, wherein government can actually have its agenda imposed on an institution by appointing the board, both in terms of the selection of the chancellor, who is the public face, as well as the governance within the programs in the institution. And that is very dangerous in a democratic society where we rely on the free exchange of ideas, and British Columbia is unique. So I support this section wholeheartedly as somebody who spent a lifetime in universities, as somebody who served as a chief negotiator for the Faculty Association, as somebody who couldn't do that and be on the board because there's no time, and as someone who supports the electoral process that puts students, faculty, and staff on the boards, as someone who supports the governance of institutions in a free and democratic society, but actually has very real problems with what is happening again in British Columbia, the Wild West, where ordering council appointments dominate boards, potentially leading to, and in some cases demonstrably leading to, decisions being made that are government-related that actually impinge upon the academic freedom of an institution. So with that, I thank the minister and her staff for the attention to the questions that I put forward.